slightly adapted, not exactly the same, but essentially slightly adapted from that sermon of 2 weeks ago is the newsletter for the October, and then we have the Gladium from the seminary, and you can see the picture of we're missing two of the seminarians there, the picture there in October, and then we have in the middle of the Gladium we have these cartoons that put together from the ones from the old ones here from 1986. This is the Archbishop Lefebvre, that he sent to the Pope because of the travesty of Assisi. And then because we're in the same situation with the ecumenical ecumenism, very much like Assisi, so we made similar ones. One of the seminarians is a bit of an artist, so he did the drawings there, and so we did the drawings to match similar to the ones of '86. That we were in the same battle, the ecumenism, and I sent this to Bishop Fillet yesterday, or two nights ago. We sent it to Bishop Fillet. And with a little note saying, we're, in the name of Archbishop Lefebvre, we're doing what he would do, where he was physically on the earth, and statu viae, which means he's here on the earth living. He would send this notice to you. So we just sent it to him last night, or 2 nights ago, and it's now in our little Gladium, the seminary newsletters being sent out, being put in the mailing now to be sent out. But the first one to receive this was Bishop Fillet. So the first one to receive it, and then we sent to the others, so to also some of the superiors. And then to all the bishops, Bishop Fillet, Bishop Williamson, Bishop Ford, Bishop Thomas Aquinas, send it to all of them. And then I was sending it out to the world. So I think one thing is becoming very clear, that we are really, you can see that the drawings on the right side, they're basically the same as the ones on the other side. And the spirit of Archbishop Lefebvre, by which he sent this notice to Pope John Paul II, that that there is no place for the ecumenism in heaven, that place is in hell, the devil calling John Paul II down to hell. So we have the same thing here with the devil calling Bishop Fillet down to hell. And so that the Pope Archbishop Lefebvre had thousands, more than 50,000, in fact more than that, but 50,000 for sure, printed and sent around the world these cartoons in 1986 to show the travesty and evil of Assisi. Now with our new trad-ecumenical gatherings and the general trad-ecumenical movement, which is the same as Assisi, so we send essentially the same thing, and you can see that clearly the spirit of these two new cartoons is exactly the same as the spirit of the ones 30 years ago, and that the doctrine is the same, and that we are truly the sons of Archbishop Lefebvre, fulfilling the work of Archbishop Lefebvre, and that the seminarians, putting it together. Father Hugo, of course, puts together the Gladium with a couple, and then the central part we put together to make these flyers, make these cartoons, and then of course the little newsletter, that we send out periodically. And then of course, remember also the month of November is coming up, so we need the names for the altar to put on the altar for the new year. For November, for the souls to remember on the altar on the new year. For the month of November, remembering the four souls in the month of November. So in any case, so you can hand those out. Bishop Fille's got it. Also yesterday, some of the seminarians, I had said Mass in Pittsburgh, and so we drove to Pittsburgh, and after driving to Pittsburgh, and then several seminarians got some without the cassock, and then the new ones, and then the one with the cassock. They went over and distributed these at Michael Matt's Catholic Identity Conference. You'll see that in the Catholic Identity Conference is featured in the cartoon here. Archbishop Fillet is stopping Archbishop Lefebvre and Bishop de Castelmeyer from coming. Says you're not trad-ecumenical enough. And then in the background you got Michael Matt and what's his name, Christopher Ferrara at the Catholic Identity Conference. And so these are handed out, and when we didn't know how, we didn't think we'd be able to hand out very many of them because we've thrown out, but I guess they just walked in at exactly the perfect time and handed them out. People were requesting them. They might have thought that it was for the next next handout, but almost everybody got it, and there was of the people handed out to everybody, and then they came and threw them out, but they threw them out afterwards. They waited for some reason. I guess they were in a they didn't know what's going on, and they waited, and then so they ended up being able to hand these out, and people were already starting to read them yesterday. There were about 200 people. They handed them out, just put them all out, and said, "Well, can I have one?" I handed them out, and so they got them, and hopefully some of them get in the hands of Bishop Schneider or to Cardinal Burke, who apparently was there also. And that's, remember, we're in the battle of the faith, and we're continuing the work of our Schism of Pfeiffer, and so we handed these things out yesterday. And then they headed back to the seminary, and of course today the Feast of Christ the King will have their procession of Christ the King and so on. In any case, so this is the latest Gladium, but liberalism is a sin, and the problem of modernism in the church, and yesterday was actually turned out to be a great success handing those things out. We didn't think we'd be able to get them out to very many, but everybody got one. And then Michael Maticus was not very happy, and he was very unhappy at the end of it. I don't really understand why, because if they were to bring their modernist Gladium, whatever, it could be Gaudium at Spes, they got the Gaudium magazine, and they brought it and handed the Gaudium magazine out to our people in our conferences. I'd say, all right, I would just take it up and say, okay, we'll make this a subject for the next conference. And here's what these modernists are saying, and here's what's wrong with it. Bang, bang, bang. Shouldn't get upset, but they got very upset. And so, and again, a lot of that is maybe because of a guilty conscience, because they're not really perfectly happy with their own position, and they can't defend their own position. And so in any case, so he was a successful apostolic day yesterday, where a couple of the seminarians went and handed out they all wanted to go and hand them out, but we had to get ready for Christ the King. We just sent a few of them up and hand them out. So in any case, that's sufficient there. You can hand them out. Yeah.